be with you as soon as we possibly can. Please stay on the line. We're here to offer you emotional support, whatever you're going through. There's a bit of a wait at the moment. A volunteer will be with you shortly. Whatever's troubling you, you can talk to us. Our volunteers are here to listen. We won't tell you what to do.
Then the defendants walk in. A kind of hush falls over the courtroom as people are staring at them.
Waiting around 7 minutes. Our calls are answered by volunteers. We do our very best to answer each call as soon as we can, but sometimes there is a wait to get through. As soon as a volunteer comes off the phone, you will be put through, so please stay on the line.
That was their very being in all the years I knew them. How quickly they have become broken, miserable little men. The long Nazi night has given me much to think and write about. All my years I have searched, like so many others, for some meaning. One of the more striking aspects of the Nuremberg trial is who's not in the dock. Hitler's not there physically, but his presence is inescapable.
Every single human being has within him or her the potential to be good or evil. And if you look at Hitler's record as a young man, there's really nothing to show that he was going to become this terribly vengeful, hate-filled figure whose whole motivation in life was going to be to exterminate an entire race. Hitler was born in Austria. He came from a middle-class family.
Hitler's mother was probably the only person in his life he really loved. She seems to have been a very gentle, kindly person who had to deal with a very difficult husband.
Hitler was brought up fairly strictly. His father beat him, but that was very common at the time. His father was a customs official who had changed his name from Schickelgruber to Hitler. Can you imagine? People would have had to shout Heil Schickelgruber instead of Heil Hitler.
Hitler was a bit of an oddball in some ways. He liked to read a lot. He had a powerful imagination.
Hitler was not a good student. He was not industrious. He had pipe dreams of becoming a great artist.
We won't judge you or tell you what to do. We'll just listen.
So Hitler moved to Vienna in 1907 in the hopes that he would be studying art at the Vienna Academy of Art. Then he was turned down for admission, which shocked him.
He wanted to become a world-famous artist, but he wasn't actually very good. If you look at some of his paintings, they are mostly townscapes, and he was rejected because he couldn't do people. It's quite significant in a way, he couldn't really paint people. He was forced to eke out an existence by selling paintings that he copied from postcards.
He lived for a few years in a men's shelter in the northern part of Vienna.
He lived a rather hand-to-mouth existence. At that time, German-speaking Austria was part of a much bigger political entity, the so-called Habsburg or Austro-Hungarian Empire.
It was a very nationally and ethnically diverse empire. And in the early 20th century, almost all the major nations were in some sense trying to pull away from it and assert their own autonomy.
The Hungarians and Czechs and Romanians, all of these different nationalities wanted their own state.
We know you've been waiting around 10 minutes, and we promised to get you through to a volunteer as soon as someone is available.
Empire, which was the most important economy in Europe. It was a large, prosperous, industrial power.
And there was developing what was called a pan-German ideology, an all-German ideology, among German Austrians who had nothing but contempt for the other ethnicities within the empire and really wanted to break away from it and unite themselves to the German Empire next door.
There's a pervasive culture among many on the right in the city of Vienna that the German people are superior to other people, such as the Czechs, such as the Jews.
Anti-Semitism, or hatred of Jews, has been around for a very long time in Europe. But a new kind of anti-Semitism emerged in the late 19th century, and fringe political attitudes began to write tracts which expounded this racist view.
being subversive, as plotting everywhere to undermine civilization, to destroy hard-working small businessmen.
There are a number of prominent politicians in Vienna who were not only political anti-Semites, but are also talking about racialized anti-Semitism.
Karl Lueger was mayor of Vienna, called himself and called his movement Christian social, and anti-Semitism was a key element of it. Hitler was watching all this as a young man and to some extent drawing inspiration from it.
Hitler from early on despised Austria and the multinational Habsburg Empire. He saw himself above all as German and not as Austrian. He thought Germany was the great nation.
Our volunteers will help
He
you
lived in a
explore
kind of
your
fantasy
feelings.
world.
It might help you see
Hitler
things clearer.
spent more money than perhaps was wise on going to the opera. He was particularly taken with the music dramas of Richard Wagner. He thought Wagner presented Germany that he wanted to aspire to, a Germany of gods and heroism and great leaders. This music spoke to him of messages for truth. One of the first Wagner operas Hitler sees is Lohengrin, a romantic opera composed in the mid-19th century, where the great hero Lohengrin more or less sacrifices himself for the nation. The powerful music by Wagner nurtured Hitler's idea that he himself would one day become a great heroic leader.
Hitler would one day become the dictator of Germany, and then the conqueror of most of Europe. But it must be added at once that he was one of the cruelest, most bloodthirsty, and barbarous tyrants who ever lived. He plunged the world into one of the bloodiest and most destructive wars in history.
Robert Jackson, who serves as the chief American prosecutor at the Nuremberg trial, is at the time of the trial an associate justice on the United States Supreme Court. His opening statement at Nuremberg in particular is to be a masterpiece.
The privilege
We know you've been waiting almost
of
15
opening
minutes.
the first
We will
trial
connect
in
you to a
history
volunteer as soon as we possibly can.
for crimes
Whatever you're
against
going
the
through,
peace of the
we're here to
world
listen.
imposes a grave responsibility. The wrongs which we seek to condemn and punish have been so calculated, so malignant, and so devastating that civilization cannot tolerate their being ignored, because it cannot survive their being repeated.
What Jackson does in his opening statement is he makes plain the moral stakes of this trial and the kind of symbolic message that the Allies are trying to send with this trial. This is not just political. This is the full force of the law being mobilized to
We're
try
putting you through
to
to a volunteer now.
punish and bring some
Samaritans, can I help you?
Good morning, my name is Howie.
Harry,
Yes,
my name's John.
Hello, John. I'm neurologically disabled, so it's going to be very difficult for me to find the right words for you to understand me.
Okay, don't worry about that, just talk about what you want to talk about.
I'm forced into a relationship against my free will,
Right,
and it's causing me neurological harm.
right.
It's not easy to describe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what words to use to describe it, but the relationship is causing me to have excessive seizures.
Right. So it's sort of resulting in physical problems.
Yes, I can't have relationships because of my disability, but because the law says I have to have a guardian, the guardian is a relationship, and it causes me to have excessive seizures. I cannot legally exist without the guardian.
Right.
But the guardian doesn't help my medical condition. It makes my medical condition worse.
Hmm. So what kind of neurological problems you got?
I have undiagnosed autism and an undiagnosed frontal lobal brain injury that cannot be seen on an MRI scan.
Right. Right. And so it's very difficult to have a relationship.
It's impossible because it causes a huge amount of distress to the other person.
Yeah.
Then it causes me to have seizures.
Right. Yeah. So your life is quite difficult then.
Yes. I'm forced to have relationships against my free will. Harmful relationships. I'm forced to have harmful relationships against my free will.
Yeah. So who is your guardian?
A person called Jay.
Hmm.
Of course, I could choose to not have a guardian, but then I would not have anybody to defend me. But
Yeah.
my guardian doesn't defend me anyway. So I have a relationship with somebody who's supposed to defend me, and they don't even do their basic job of defending me. I've got nobody. I have nobody else. I have no other choices. Nobody else is on offer.
Do you have any family?
Yes.
Are they supportive?
What does that mean, supportive?
Look after your needs or?
My mother washes my clothes, but she complains. She's 90 years old.
Right. Yeah. And brothers and sisters?
I have one brother who gives me some food sometimes, and I have another brother. His wife is a terrible cook. I don't eat that food. It's inedible.
Oh, oh dear. So, how do you support yourself? I guess you're on benefits, are you?
Mhm. Yes. If I'm lucky to get them. Most of the time they just cut them off.
Yeah.
beg your pardon?
How's your sort of mental well-being?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I have no mental health problems. I only have a neurological problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So but the problem is, because it can't be seen on an MRI scan, the doctors don't consider I've got a brain injury. They consider I've got mental health problems. Then they send me to psychologists, and they put me through therapy, and it doesn't help, because of course it can't help if I have no mental health problem to start with.
Yeah. Right.
They're pretty stupid people, doctors. I'm saying they're not stupid as individuals, but I'm just saying the way that they are. I mean, it's if you can let a person for 35 years with a brain injury and not even diagnosis, then there's something pretty stupid about that system.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe stupid is the wrong word. Maybe dysfunctional would be better. But it's a fact that frontal lobal brain injury is a known consequence of coma from malaria. And I've repeatedly stated this to these various consultants, yet none of them have thought of any way of verifying it.
Have you had malaria in the past then?
That's how it ends up brain injured.
Yeah.
I'm a coma.
Yeah.
Well, I can't say brain injured because there's been no evidence. I mean, like, there's been no, what do you call it? What is the word when somebody, there's no documented evidence. I mean, there's documented evidence that specifies that I stated I had a malaria coma and that I had altered behavior as from that point in time, but no doctor's ever verified whether my behavioral change was caused by the coma.
Yeah.
It's just circumstantial.
Right.
And if you're dealing with something that's circumstantial and not documented, then how can anybody help me? They've got nothing to go on.
No. And what about the autism? Have they tried to diagnose that?
I tried to go to a couple of doctors, but they just didn't complete the work. They got halfway through it, and there was one doctor who couldn't complete it because there was no record of my early childhood. Another doctor said I needed a follow-up appointment. It never materialized. Another doctor gave up halfway through.
Oh dear. Yeah. So you're a bit up against it, really. Have you been able to work at all?
I gave up 20 years ago. It was just, it was such an uphill struggle. Because there's no diagnosis, then there's no, if they don't know what your problem is, they don't know how to help you. You go to the government, they say, what do you want? Do you want a wheelchair? Do you want a computer? I said, I don't know. I don't know why I can't hold a job down. Well, in that case, we can't help you. The problem is that the government is very happy to hand out benefits to people who can't work, but in order to get to work, you have to have a diagnosis, and they just don't want to do the work. The government just doesn't want to diagnose why people can't work. that's a system of, just an artifact of the society in which we live. I got 3 university degrees, but I can't use them. You know, I'm sure there's a clever scientist or doctor somewhere who can work out how do you support somebody with autism and a frontal lobal brain injury in the workplace. I think if I'm intelligent enough to get a degree with autism and a brain injury, why then can't I work? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So why can't you work?
Exactly. Why can't I work? Because they just keep throwing me out. They don't like me because I'm offensive and unpleasant and antisocial.
Right.
Is that justification to throw me out of work because you feel uncomfortable with me present?
No, not at all.
Well, it is, because that's what happens.
Yeah.
Imagine this. I go to the government and I say to the government, I'm antisocial and offensive and unpleasant and I want to work. What support can you give me? They say to me, do you want a computer or a wheelchair? I said, I don't know. I say to the government, I have a brain injury and they keep getting rid of me. Then they say, we can't help you. Stay on benefit. That's the government. They don't bother to think. Why can't they just put me in some kind of a... They could... If I'm telling you, the Nazis did a better job at this. They just used me as slave labor. I would do very well in a slave labor camp. It's not that I can't work, it's that just people just don't want me around.
So what are your degrees in?
Geology, law, and philosophy. And I tried to do teacher training, but they were having none of it. They said, we don't want a person with severe behavioral problems as a teacher.
Yeah. Difficult then. Yeah. So how are you feeling generally?
One moment, please. I'm trying to recollect my thoughts.
Okay.
So, yeah, tomorrow at 10 o'clock I have to see the neurologist. And I have to try to explain to the neurologist that I'm forced into a relationship that's causing me a lot of problems. And I have to explain to the neurologist the reason. You see, there's a problem that I'm only seeing this doctor because of damage to my neck. The brain injury caused me to have a seizure. And the seizure meant that I couldn't communicate with the police. So they beat me up and broke my neck.
What? Who did? The police?
Yeah. They didn't understand what a seizure was. They thought I was just being obstinate, and so they just handcuffed me and dragged me whilst I was having a seizure across the floor of the airport and broke my neck. So that's why I see the neurologist because of the broken neck. not because of the seizure that caused me to have the broken neck.
Right.
It's his colleagues, Professor Ray Dolan, who's supposed to deal with it, but he's just not listening. So I have to tell the neurologist again that I discovered that there are improved versions of the MRI scan that can examine the brain on a deeper level. It's called a DTI and an MRS. I don't know what
Right.
I don't know diffusion tensor imaging and magnetic resonance spectroscopy, I think it's called. They look at different aspects of the brain. I'm going to ask the GP, the neurologist, if they will do this. Even though it's got nothing to do with my damaged neck, it could maybe see something, some kind of evidence. But the thing is that if you've had a brain injury that cannot be seen on these types of scan, but it produces altered behavior, surely there would be some kind of psychometric way of testing a person to see they've got altered behavior.
Yeah, you think.
It's not like they've never had these problems before. It's very similar to carbon monoxide poisoning or encephalitis. Just because of carbon monoxide poisoning and encephalitis can't be seen on an MRI scan doesn't mean that you shouldn't treat the patients.
So does your neck injury cause paralysis at all?
My neck injury just means I can't use my hands properly.
Right.
That's why I see the neurologist. But I have to say to him, look, the neck injury was caused by a seizure. And this is what's difficult. Because is the seizure a mental health issue, or is the seizure a neurological issue? That's the problem. What's caused the seizure? Now, the thing is, they have to make the right referral. Right. Now, if it's a mental health issue, then they have to refer me to a mental health doctor. And if it's a neurological issue, then they have to refer me to, well, he's a neurologist, so he should deal with it.
Yeah.
But maybe a different aspect of neurology. I don't know if they subdivide these things. But after the brain injury, I didn't initially have seizures. They only developed in 2007.
Right.
But it's part of the behavioral problem, in as much as when I'm put in a confrontational situation, I have switching between my ability to speak and my body movement. So let's say, for example, in 1990, when I first discovered this behavioral modification, I had to speak to a security guard about speaking to somebody on the other side of security. And I found that I couldn't speak. I was just unable to find the right words. I don't really know what happened. It's so difficult to find words to describe what's happening to you when at the same time you're having amnesia. You can't really remember. But it didn't, at that time, I didn't completely lock down into a state of absolute catatonia. That only developed later, about 17 years later. So is the fact that I'm locking down in a complete state of catatonia, is that a mental health issue, or is it still the same neurological issue? And that's really important to identify that, because it means who is that doctor supposed to refer me to? But I will ask him to test me with this new MRI scan techniques, MRS and DTI, to see if that will help in any way.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it would. So,
But I'm just saying that if I can't have relationships, part of it is because I'm autistic, which is a mental health issue. I don't know if it's really a mental health issue. Maybe it's something that's separate from that. I don't know how the health industry categorizes and subdivides its specializations. But the problem is that if the frontal lobal brain injury has made these ability to deal with relationships even worse, then it's a problem, because I think it's very difficult to work out what aspects and how much percentage of relationship breakdown is caused by pre-existing autism, and what percentage is caused by acquired brain injury, and maybe there's another percentage which is a combination of both.
yeah.
So how can they send me to the right professional if the whole industry is subdivided like this?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the dividing lines are quite hazy, aren't they, between what is a physical problem and what is a mental health problem?
I don't think the word is hazy. I think they're very sharp, because it's very sharp. This side goes to mental health, this side goes to neurology, this side goes to autism, and because of the sharpness of the divide, you cannot get correct help, because you have a combination.
Yeah,
Therein lies the problem.
yeah,
I can't form relationships. And relationships are essential in life, because without relationships you have no language. You can only have language if there's somebody that you can have a relationship to evolve speech.
Do you ever lose heart and feel you don't want to carry on?
I've been registered with various euthanasia organizations for over a decade.
Have you?
Yeah. I sent my file to...
How seriously are you thinking about that?
Well, I sent my file to the chief medical officer. I sent one to the chief medical officer in England, one to the one in Wales, one to the one in Scotland, and one to the one in Belfast.
Right. But even, have you ever considered actually getting through with it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I have a guardian. Because you're not allowed to be euthanized unless you've tried all medical treatments. So I'm trying guardianship. So I need somebody to certify that guardianship will not work for me. If somebody certifies that guardianship will not work for me because I'm too antisocial, then I'll send that to the chief medical officer in the hope that they can euthanize me.
Okay. And have you spoken to us before?
Yes, I have. sometimes it's very difficult to speak because
Yeah.
some of your volunteers are very, very demanding.
In what sense?
Well, they demand that I use different words. They're very intolerant.
What's the different words?
Well, I don't know. You haven't told me to use different words. But some of the other volunteers will say, "Why aren't you using the correct words that I want?" And I said to them, "Because I'm brain injured and I can't find the right words." And then they say to me, "You are shouting at me. You are angry." And I said, "I'm not angry. I have a brain injury. I have a brain injury that affects my speech." No, 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 no. You are angry. You are angry. That's how the volunteers are sometimes.
Oh, sorry about that.
They're very forceful in how they want you to speak. And so it's true that I don't have the same language that other people like to use. And maybe that's part of the reason why people are so violent against me, why I can't form relationships, because I'm not using the same, whatever it is,
Right.
emotional language.
And you obviously don't sleep so well if you're calling this time of night.
That's right. I don't sleep much. And like part of the language that I use is, if I was to describe something, I would say the leaf is 5 centimeters tall and 8 centimeters wide. It has 5 pointy bits, and the color is green with some bits of brown, and there are veins running along the leaf. That is my type of language. But another person would use something. The leaf was fluttering in the wind on a gorgeous, brightly turpin, blah 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 blah, and they would use a kind of, what do you call it? I don't know how do you describe it. Some kind of parallel language, which which I can hear and understand, but I can't replicate. The rolling pillars of, I don't know what. They would use a different type of language, and I think it's that type of language that some of the Samaritans volunteers want me to have, but which I can't replicate because I guess it's autism. I don't have an ability to replicate a certain type of language structure. But my mind doesn't work that way. They keep saying, "Well, you haven't told me how you're feeling. You haven't told me how you're feeling." And I said, "I've told you how I'm feeling. I'm having seizures.
Yeah.
That's my feeling." You know? Whereas a person who's not autistic would recount their feelings like a Mills and Boon book, a person who's autistic and has a brain injury says, "Well, my feeling is a seizure. I don't get the words that a normal person would have. I get a seizure."
Yeah, no, okay, I've got you. Uh, yeah, I understand.
And I think that's why part of the reason that relationships don't work for me, because a lot of people, they work in this kind of parallel language,
Yeah.
like Jane Austen and Thomas Hardy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of these people, where the way people write is like, well, I'm sorry that I'm allergic to this kind of language, because I switch off and I fall asleep. It doesn't register in my brain as any kind of more than a load of nonsensical, Chinese script. As far as I'm concerned, it makes nothing to me.
Yeah.
And that's why I sometimes I ask the AI, the artificial intelligence, I ask them, do I have a genetic throwback? So advanced forms of the English language are, of course, associated with a higher evolved state of human being. And maybe I just have a genetic throwback, which means I'm more like a caveman, and I am unable to deal with advanced Thomas Hardy and Jane Austen language because I have a genetic inability. The genes that allow a human being to understand language in this extra complicated form does not exist within my ability.
Right.
But I think that when I ask the AI that question, it's just saying to me, well, if you try and speak like that with a doctor, they're just going to start rejecting you immediately as being delusional. But I try to say to the AI, well, why can't that be a scientific appraisal? That if you cannot understand language on a higher level, it means that you're like lesser evolved than other people, because surely the ability to use language is the ultimate essence of what a human being has evolved to be. But AI wasn't having any of that.
Well, yeah.
It was just saying that he said just that when you go to a doctor, don't talk about genetic throwbacks. Don't talk about yourself being less evolved or being a subhuman. But that's how I would analyze things if I was allowed to. Apparently, I'm not, because that's not the way that medicine works, and that's not the way that AI has said things can be.
Interesting. No, you've described autism very well, I think.
Not only autism, I have apparently frontal lobal problems, which impede dealing with emotions and confrontations, in as much as my speech and my body movement get confused when things get too, I don't know, confrontational or too kind. I can't deal with kindness, and I can't deal with confrontation. Thank you for speaking with me.
Well, I know it's a great pleasure, and anytime you need us, give us a call.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.